All right, good evening. I'm just going to start with letting you know what I'm going to speak about tonight is really not easy for me. I think in general, I try to be a positive person. I look to solving problems, not really complaining or focusing on the negative, but the reality is enough is enough. So I'm going to start here. We're being recorded, audio, right? We can listen to it later. I guess you can take some small notes, but the reality is I really would like your focus. So I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Every organization has a culture, and that culture is developed by its leadership from the top down. We work in a school district. Our leadership is the superintendent, his staff, and of course the school board. In fact, I even looked at the CSDA's website and reviewed the school board leadership, the role and function of California School Board's document. And in that, one of the five, I think, responsibilities they focus on is to provide support. And they actually outline in there that part of that providing support is ensuring a positive personnel climate exists. So I really feel like even though I've talked about a lot of different things in the past, I really want to target this right now and focus on culture today. Because I don't know if you know this, but the culture right now is really a culture of negativity and disrespect. And I think, again, that comes from the top down. It starts at the top, it works down through the administration, it's to the sites now in different layers. I have a few examples I want to go through tonight. It may take a while, but I appreciate you listening, so thank you. So I'm going to start with a situation that was, I worked at Bannon Creek for a few years, and while I was there, I worked with their RSP teacher, Julianne Link Oberstar. And she's one of those teachers that puts every single thing into her job, like most of us do. And every year in her job as an RSP teacher, she would start the school year with a caseload within a few of her maximum. And she would notify her site administrator, and she would notify, I'm not sure it was different special ed directors, but she would give the heads up to say, hey, I've got 22, I've got 4 more in the pipe, I'm gonna be over my limit, please help. And every single year, except for one, where she basically threatened to file a complaint with CDE, was any help provided. Now, most recently, help was provided, but again, it wasn't because they listened the first time she said anything. It was because we had to go to the CTA lawyer and write a letter. And why? Why can't it just be an employee says, hey, here I am. My caseload's going over. I want these kids to get what they need. They need a teacher to be able to focus on them. They don't need somebody who's pushed to their limit. And this year, the help that was provided was half. And the other half was teaching an SES class. When you talk to anybody who has any experience with special ed, you can't teach half an SES class and half of a RSP class. So that's example number one of just the continuous disrespect and not listening to teacher needs, and making teachers either make threats to make a complaint or having to bring legal in. We spend way too much money on lawyers. I think it's sad. So another example is this mid-year adoption that's potentially coming up again. I know the CAG members are saying that it's maybe potential, but I know it's also on the calendars of most administrators to begin adoption on a certain date this year. We did it last year in math, and there's nothing good about it, right? I know you could look at it and say, hey, look, we need Common Core aligned curriculum, but the reality is we spent the last few years working with treasures and adapting to it and Common Coring it. So if you now say, hey, halfway through the year, let's chuck all that treasure stuff and all the work you've done, it's kind of another just sign of just disrespect and not looking at what's best for us. Have you asked us? Have you surveyed us on what we think about that? Because we're in the classroom, right? I mean, I know you speak to the district staff, but even they're not in the classroom. They might visit the classroom, but we are in the classroom. We have first contact with these students. We know them. We know what's best for them. So, point being here, we can talk financials, right? We already bought the treasure stuff for the whole year. You gonna buy another curriculum for this year? I don't know. Doesn't seem very smart to me. It's kind of like buying groceries halfway through the week and throwing out half your groceries and buying new ones. I don't know if it's a good analogy or not, but it came to my head right there. Let's talk about a third thing, CAG. Okay, there's all sorts of different little silly people do with that word, you can imagine, but the CAG is, well, tell you what, I asked some of my fellow colleagues who are been on the CAGs what their thoughts of it are. And by the way, I do really appreciate the focus you guys have given me tonight. It's the difference. I like this closer feeling. So here's one teacher's opinion or thoughts. Most of the time I spent working on this was a bunch of copying and pasting. I felt like we were doing redundant busy work. It looks like a great document for the district to show the state that we're meeting standards, but as a teacher, it is not user-friendly. Another one. It feels like we are in the old days of doing open court, in which we had visitors come to see if we were on the right page of the manual. We now have people from the district office coming in and opening their laptops and iPads to see if we are aligning with the CAG. They want to see the standards we are meeting up on the board, and they want to see that we, the professionals, are following the CAG with fidelity. As a teacher in the classroom, it frustrates me that we have to put on this dog and pony show to show them we are teaching to the standards. Another person's thoughts. My personal feeling is it would be more efficient use of time and money for whoever is in charge of curriculum to look at other school districts to see what they've produced instead of hiring teachers at $40 per hour to reinvent the wheel. Teachers can offer their input and feedback to tweak those documents in order to create something that fits the needs of Natomas students. I have a few here more. I'll read two more. I felt like the ELA CAG was putting the cart before the horse. I realized that the Common Core standards are our curriculum. However, since we are on the verge of adopting new ELA materials, it seemed like it would have been made more sense to wait until we adopted a Common Core state standard aligned curriculum and state approved set of textbooks and materials. Last one here. I am a hard-working and effective teacher with 20 plus years of experience in Natomas, and this kind of misguided micromanagement is making me seriously consider a career change. Our district talks about attracting and retaining highly qualified teachers. This will not accomplish that objective. So, just to recap, we've talked about CAG, we've talked about individual experience at Bandit Creek, RSP, and actually, Chris, I forgot to mention, I think early in your tenure, we actually sat outside the library there and met and sat with her. And if you recall, it was a pretty passionate plea. Let's see here. Infinite Campus, okay. I remember now almost 2 years ago when we were first looking at the two different SISs, and they came in and they modeled for us and we had different meetings and so forth. And after we adopted Infinite Campus, I just said, hey, we need to make sure that elementary teachers are given as much training as possible, as much leeway, as much heads up, because this is going to be awkward, to say the least, right? We had never used, right? We didn't have PowerBook or PowerSchool, only for attendance. We hadn't done an online grade book. So not only that, but there's also the whole discussion of the standards-based grading, right? We haven't, as a district, really addressed that and come to any agreement on what is a 4, what is a 3, what is a 2, what is a 1. For a long time that we were doing that percentage, and that's not right. I'm not sure if you're aware of that or not. But when you assign a percentage to a 1, 2, 3, 4, you're not doing standards-based grading. But we still are doing it in some places. We haven't been consistent on that. So as far as Infinite Campus, the training really has been insufficient. It's been offered a lot, don't get me wrong. There's lots of options for it, but there really is only when you show up for the training. I've been to 3 of them. I got paid for 1. Fine with that. I've done my own, all last trimester in the year. I like that stuff. I consider myself to be in the top 10% of, technology teachers or whatever. But when I went, it was the same thing. And it really wasn't too user-friendly. So it wasn't until I really started playing with it that I really started to understand it. I think we just need to diversify that training. We've talked about this for professional development, having different levels of professional development, just like we have to do in the classroom. So, and then common assessments. I mean, one of the goals, I think, for having Infinite Campus was so we were all on the same page. But earlier, mentioning cart before the horse, right now, I teach 5th grade at Two Rivers. I work with my own colleagues, but what are the other 5th grades at the other 7 elementary schools doing? Are we on the same page? Do we give the same assessments? Can we compare apples to apples across district? It would be nice if we had that. It would have been good to have done that beforehand. Maybe calibrated some of our grading for writing, things like that are more subjective. We didn't do any of that. We still haven't got any plans for it, as far as I know. Here's a quick one, another kind of site-specific example of just kind of things that we deal with, right? So one of my close members on the rep council is a teacher at Thomas High School, and she shared with me the other day, and I think maybe some board members were also brought in on this, the bathroom situation, right? Start of the school, the staff bathroom's not available. You know, stuff happens, right? We're under construction, we understand there's delays. I mean, the library at my school, we probably know this, right? The 6 week of school card next week, we don't have books in it. You know where they all are? In the parking lot, in a storage container. It's probably going from 50 degrees to 100 degrees every day. So fingers crossed when we open that up that they're okay. Back to Thomas High School. So the bathroom's broken. People are being patient. It's 5 weeks later. There's still no bathroom for the staff. Now, did it get fixed that day? Pretty much. But why wasn't it fixed the first 5 weeks? It's just weird, right? And even when it got fixed, there was still like one toilet didn't flush, the sink water wasn't working, there was live wires hanging out. It's just, again, like, didn't we just break ground on a new charter school? Didn't we just reopen Star Academy, but yet the high school that's supposed to be the capstone one doesn't have bathrooms for the staff? I also understand, and I know people are working on this, the AP program doesn't have the right textbooks. One of them's from 1998, is my understanding. And I get that's been addressed, I'm just saying it's something that also has been added to my list. All right, here we go, we got two more. Now, retention of teachers. We've heard this one, right? People have referenced different percentages, right? So I said to myself, right? Figure it out. Go look at the records. Ask for some numbers, right? So I asked Doug, Mr. Orr, if I could have the numbers on maybe hiring, the resignations, and the retirees for the last 2 years, okay? Now Doug had a great idea. He said, well, all that information's on the board agendas, Phil. I said, okay, I'll go look at the board agendas. Well, I didn't realize how many I do know how many board meetings there are, but they add up, right? And I actually decided to go back to like 2012. So 102 agendas I looked at, right? Good stuff. Pretty fun for a Saturday. Here's what I found. I found since 2012, we've hired 459 teachers. Okay, our current membership is 550, right? Now, of course, over that time, there have been teachers that have left the district. I counted that at 243, okay? Do the math, the difference, that's a retention rate of, that's an exit rate of 52%. The retention rate of 48. Now, I'll be honest. I spent Saturday from like 8 in the morning to about 6 that night, some time on Sunday. I could have made a mistake, but to be honest, for every single agenda, I copied the certificated teachers, I pasted them into a document, I copied the resignations, I have the data. So I have it to back it up. If we can look at it together if you'd like, I'm more than happy to share it. If you look at it year by year, it's been increasing too. Okay, this is why I talk about this culture of disrespect. You know, Talitha mentioned earlier, salaries. I know salaries are always a consideration when people think about working somewhere, but it's really not salaries too. It's culture. You know, some of the top companies in our country have great cultures, and they don't get paid the highest, right? It's the small things, right? I'll give you an example of a teacher that left our district. I was at a coordinated chapters meeting the other day. I met with Robla, I met with Twin Rivers Center. One more. Anyway, this teacher, Isabel Nunez, she was a first grade teacher in our district. Fantastic teacher. She left. You know why? She didn't like the culture. You know where she's at? Robla. That's a tough district. And you know what? They love her there. The president of the Robla district, she's a kindergarten teacher, knows her. She teaches first grade. She's like, oh my God, you let her go? Well, yeah, we drove her out. We've driven out 52% of the teachers. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. And it's not just money, it's culture. that's being created by the leadership. So, gonna hit on this last one, and I think this kind of is the cherry on the top of whatever we're eating for dessert. And Talisa talked about this too, and I won't spend too much time on it, but it is what's on tonight's board agenda, the raise, okay? Like Talisa said, I get it. You work probably twice as much as I do. It's a stressful job. There have been a lot of successes too. Don't get me wrong, there are things that we can point at and say, hey, good work, nice job. You came into a big mess too, right? So, but what's enough, right? I mean, I make $80,000, so that's not hard to admit. You can see it on my salary schedule. My wife probably makes 60 in Oak Grove, 140,000 between the two of us. We have 2 kids in college. It's not easy, but that's a good amount of money. Okay, tonight, after going from 185 in 2012 to 187 to 207,000 in 2014, along the way you've had some different bonuses and so forth. But tonight, the salary is, I believe, set at 270,000. It's a 30% raise from 2 years ago. I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I look at it and I'm just like, what? Is this like a reward for what's happened? Are we saying, hey, nice job driving out all those teachers? I mean, I'm all for giving somebody some raise. I like my own raise, which, of course, by your contract, you get also the Me Too clause, along with the 3% every year, I think. But wow, 30%. I mean, I don't know. There really aren't words to express it. I hope you can consider. I mean, you are the leaders of this district, the board members right now. Is this the message you want to send to membership, to your teachers, to your classified staff? That we're gonna spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a lawyer, on a law firm, to negotiate and drive you guys down in the ground so you beg for 4.5%? And then we're gonna offer this guy, Superintendent Evans, a 30% raise? I don't know how you guys, I mean, seriously, I don't sleep well at night. I'm not sure how you guys can. You know, I'm just gonna end it up here. I do truly love my job. Each night, it amazes me. Each night I'm tired, right? But I still am amazed that I'm still excited to go to work. I didn't have that as a geologist. I didn't have that after the first month. 14 years of teaching, I still love my job. But you know what I don't like? I don't like this. I don't like coming up here and telling you all these things. I haven't even told you most of it. This is just like a slice of things I hear from teachers. I don't like it. I don't like seeing my colleagues leave. Larry Bucher, he was your son's teacher. He left early in his career. He still had a good 5 or 6 years left in him. One of the most innovative teachers I know. Because he was done. Because of the culture that's created by you, the leaders. So, you know, in closing, I just said, is this what you want? Do you believe it, I guess? You know, I'm here to talk to. I've been here to talk to. I will be here to talk to. So call me, email me. I probably won't be here till the end of the meeting tonight. I just need to go home, and so I'm ready to teach kids tomorrow. But I am available after school on weekends, etc. Thank you.